What does our resident Swiftie think about Taylor Swift endorsing Kamala Harris? Also, Caitlin Clark liked Taylor Swift's post. Patrick Mahomes had something to say about the election, too. We are going to look at all of this. We are also going to continue on the story of what is happening in an immigrant community in Springfield, Ohio. We will separate fact from fiction there, give you the tools that you need to have that tough conversation with your friends. Also, just want to remind you guys about Share the Arrows. I'm so pumped about it. It's coming up so soon. I'll be posting an FAQ soon with a lot of the questions that you guys have. Go to sharethearrows.com. We've got Candace Cameron Bure, Rosaria Butterfield, Elisa Childers, Abby Halberstadt, Francesca Battistelli, of course, yours truly. There's going to be thousands of you there. A great place to make lifelong friends. You're going to be so encouraged and so equipped. It's going to be powerful teaching. It's going to be beautiful worship. I just can't wait. If you haven't gotten your tickets, now is the time. There's no guarantee that we are not going to sell out. We keep opening up sections for more and more people to be able to come. And so go to sharethearrows.com. If you get a VIP ticket, also, you'll get to meet all the speakers, take pictures with the speakers, including Candace Cameron Bure. So snag those VIP tickets if that's something that you're interested in. Sharethearrows.com. All right, let's get to today's episode of Relatable. Hey guys, welcome to Relatable. Happy Thursday. Hope everyone has had a wonderful week so far. If you want a debunking of Kamala Harris and ABC on immigration and abortion, you've got to listen to yesterday's episode. And if you want to know how my dad's and my predictions about the debate and the race came true, go listen to our conversation on Tuesday. Today, I want to get more into quite a few stories, so I'm going to try to move through them as thoroughly but as quickly as I can. And the first story I want to talk about is Taylor Swift and her endorsement of Kamala Harris. We briefly responded to her Instagram post yesterday, but of course, I've got to get Bree's take because, as you know, Bree has historically been a fan of Taylor Swift. I know that Taylor Swift is not y'all's favorite, and some of you might be thinking, why do we care about this? Why are you even talking about who Taylor Swift supports? Well, as you guys know, she is incredibly influential. She has the adoration, the admiration, the adulation, all of it, of a lot of young women, and unfortunately shapes the worldviews, the perspectives, and the definitions for moral truths for a lot of young women. And so what she says carries weight. It might not carry enough weight to determine the fate of the election, but it carries weight, and it tells us a lot about where we are as a country. It tells us a lot about where our culture is. And so I do want to dive a little bit more deeply into it, what some of the responses have been, and again, why I think this is significant, what we can do on the rational side of things to push back against something like this, and what I think is really just kind of like the moral backdrop of some of these words. So just as a recap, she posted this as a self-proclaimed childless cat lady. You can see the post that she posted on Instagram if you're watching on YouTube. She says, like many of you, I watched the debate tonight. I don't think that she actually did. And she says, as a voter, I make sure to watch and read everything I can about their proposed policies and plans for this country. Also not true. I'm sorry. That's just not true. She said that she's concerned about the development of AI, that there was an AI image of her that endorsed Donald Trump. And so she's got to be really clear about what she believes. She says that she loves Kamala Harris and Tim Walz. She's really heartened by Tim Walz as a vice presidential pick. And he has a long history, she says, of standing up for LGBTQ rights, IVF, a woman's right to her own body. That is the euphemism that she is employing for dismembering and poisoning and starving living babies inside the womb. She describes Kamala Harris just completely seriously, non-ironically, as steady-handed, a gifted leader, and someone who is going to lead our country by calm and not chaos. The exact opposite is true. The exact opposite is true. If you look at the policies that Kamala Harris has represented, her entire political legacy, and I would say personal legacy, when you look at the personal choices she has made, they're completely characterized by chaos. Her immigration policy, her healthcare policy, her economic policy, her policy when it comes to transing children, all of these policies are characterized by moral chaos, by degeneracy. The foreign policy that she has helped oversee as vice president has only led to more conflict, more war, more embarrassment for the United States, more instability. But Taylor Swift, this person with tens of millions of fans, says that she is supporting Kamala Harris because of the wisdom and the power and the strength that she represents. The Babylon Bee gave us a very fitting headline, I think. Woman who made career singing about her bad choices endorses Kamala. True. As we mentioned yesterday, she's got that line, which I think is very appropriate. I have this thing where I get older, but just never wiser. That does seem to be true of Taylor Swift in a variety of ways. She is, I think, a 34-year-old woman whose past is littered by, I think in her own words, these mistakes, these very rash, emotional relationship decisions that she has made over her life. And now here she is saying that she doesn't explicitly say this, but it does seem like this is what she is at least implying, that we should all endorse and support someone like Kamala Harris, who is as radical on things like abortion as it comes. This is because Taylor Swift is a highly emotional person who has not thought about this from a moral or rational perspective at all. Okay, I'm going to bring Bree in before we give the rest of our analysis, but first let me pause, tell you about our first sponsor for the day, and it is Lumen. So Lumen is an incredible handheld metabolic coach. This is a device that measures your metabolism through your breath. And then you have an app that's connected to the device that's on your phone that lets you know when or if you are burning fat or if you're just burning carbs. It gives you a tailored guide to improve your nutrition, your workouts, your sleep, even stress management based on your metabolic health that it is measuring every morning when you breathe into it, when you wake up. It is giving you different tips for the specific kind of diet that you need, the kind of exercise that will put you into a state where you are actually burning fat and your metabolism is working in a healthy way. If you remember my interview with Casey Means, she talks about the importance of metabolic health, that this is really a missing piece as we are understanding how our bodies function. So Lumen can really help you get on the path to metabolic health. Go to lumen.me/relatable, get 15% off your Lumen. That's lumen.me/relatable for 15% off. Okay, Bree, we mentioned yesterday that Taylor Swift has been reamed recently because of her friendship with Brittany Mahomes. Brittany Mahomes is the wife of Patrick Mahomes, who is a very famous player from the Kansas City Chiefs. And of course, Taylor Swift's boyfriend, Travis Kelce, that's his name, right? He plays for the Kansas City Chiefs. And so Brittany is allegedly a Trump supporter. There's a couple of things that she said recently that people think mean that she supports Donald Trump. Yeah. And Taylor Swift and Brittany are friends. There have been several posts on X criticizing Taylor Swift for this. Like, you cannot be friends with someone who believes in violating human rights, yada, yada, all the stuff that they say about Trump and his voters. I think that is where this post is coming from. It's not because she watched the debate. It's not because she did her research. She's liberal and she wants everyone to know it.
Yeah. Well, I think she has a unhealthy obsession, to be honest, with what people think about her. And I think that probably comes naturally with this amount of fame, to be fair. But I mean, people were trying to start a campaign to boycott her because she breathed the same air as Brittany Mahomes one time.
Yeah.
So I think she saw that, and I think she knew I have the VMAs coming up which was last night, where she won multiple awards. She obviously wants her next albums to continue selling out. She's at the top of her career, someone might argue. I think she sees people being upset at her for the first time in a while, and she says, I got to fix this immediately. And I think that's all it was. You're right. She did not do her research, clearly. She has no idea what the average American has been through under Biden-Harris. She has no clue what the price of groceries is or what the price of gas is. And if she did, it wouldn't matter to her. So those things aren't of concern to her. She doesn't care. This is all PR. It's not real. That's just what it is.
Do you think it is her personally that cares so much what people think, or do you think it's more her PR team?
I think it's her. I do. I think she's at the point where she does kind of lead her whole team. I think she knows what she knows what she wants, and I think she is a smart businesswoman. I don't think this was the smartest time to post something like this, though I understand like her reasoning kind of. But I think she's smart, and I think it was her decision.
Yeah. I don't know if she would really. Does she really think that making people mad like this, like say she didn't endorse anyone, that she would sell fewer albums and fewer concert tickets? Like, does she really think that would make that much of a difference? Because I don't think it would. People forget about it. Also, she's got a ton of Republicans and conservatives that go to her concerts. I know people out there are upset about that, and I totally get it. But I mean, there are a lot of people voting for Donald Trump that go to her concerts. Mm-hmm. She doesn't seem to care about like losing their support.
Yeah. Yeah, and that was the whole point of her like 2020 documentary, where her dad warned her about that and said, you will lose half your fan base. And that didn't happen when she started talking about it. It just didn't. But I think she thinks it will. And she said before how insecure she is about getting older and becoming less relevant. And she probably knows that this is kind of the tippy top, and she's not going going higher than this.
Yeah, it probably is the tippy top, because I mean, of course you can be a Celine Dion and you could be a Cher, but at the same time, like, they have the pipes. I think that, I'm not saying that she's a bad singer, but she's not Celine Dion. She's just not. I mean, a lot of the appeal of her concerts is her ability to move and her ability to look cute and dress up and to talk about these immature, frivolous relationships. You can only do that for so long. I mean, look at Madonna. Like, you can only do that for so long before people are like, I'm kind of sad. Yeah. Like, okay, I love the Backstreet Boys, and I finally went to one of their concerts a couple years ago. I'm not saying they're in the same bucket of Taylor Swift. I don't know. They don't make political statements as far as I know. But their concert was great. I'm so sorry, Nick Carter, if you're watching this. But like, as they were dancing and they were talking about these like breakup songs, I was like, this is kind of sad. Like, there's something a little sad about it. Clearly, like, they had to take a lot of breaks. They had to sing a lot of ballads because they're in their 40s and 50s, of course. And that's fine. But it gets to a point to where, okay, you can't sing the same kind of things and you can't move the same way. It's just not the same. There's a point to where we're all kind of like backing away slowly and hoping that you just kind of like retire, like with your families and all of that. It could get that way with Taylor Swift. She is at the tippy top, which is why, to me, I don't even know why you would make. Maybe that's why, actually. Maybe that's why she's making this statement. It's really not because she's afraid that she's going to lose fans, but because it's the acceptable position to take, quote unquote. And it's really probably less about her fans and maybe more about her powerful friends who are all liberal and who are pressuring her and talking to her, and her activist friends saying like, you're going to save democracy by making this post. Literally. I know that we laugh at that, but she might literally be thinking that. Because I mean, she did not have to sing this song, "You Need to Calm Down," that we've talked about before, where she
Yeah.
portrays everyone who is for the natural definition of marriage as hillbillies in trailer parks without any teeth. I mean, that's rude to hillbillies, trailer parks, and people without teeth, and Christians. Like, it's so rude. Like, she doesn't care about that at all. She didn't care about losing those fans. And honestly, she didn't. She didn't
Yeah.
lose conservative fans. Like, you're one
Yeah.
of many, many. So I'm not just saying you. Um, so I don't know. It's got to be something that she really thinks that she is like righteous and salvific doing this.
Yeah. I think that documentary in 2020 did shed a lot of light into her thinking and how I don't think she puts enough thought into that
It's very
stuff.
childish.
As smart as I think she is on a business level, I think there's a lot of
A
immaturity
lot of
there.
immaturity. Okay.
Yeah.
In case people don't know what we're talking about, this is the first time I heard her talk about politics, and I was like, wow, okay, here's that one.
It really is a big deal. She votes against fair pay for women. She votes against the reauthorization of the Violence Against Women Act, which is just basically protecting us from domestic abuse and stalking. She thinks that if you're a gay couple, or even if you look like a gay couple, you should be allowed to be kicked out of a restaurant. It's really basic human rights, and it's right and wrong at this point. And I can't see another commercial and see her disguising these policies behind the words Tennessee Christian values. Those aren't Tennessee Christian values. I live in Tennessee. I am Christian. That's not what we stand for.
Okay, so Marsha Blackburn did become senator. She is still a senator from Tennessee. Have a bunch of terrible things happened because of Marsha Blackburn? And of course, there's more to the story on every single piece of legislation there. That's something that Democrats do very well. They will name a piece of legislation, and what the bill actually does is the opposite of what they say, or they sneak things in there that, of course, no Republican would support, so that they can say, see, Marsha Blackburn is against protecting women from stalking and violence, when, of course, that's not true. She's very, very emotional, very immature, just a very superficial understanding of politics there, you can tell. And we played a clip from her concert a few months ago where she was giving some political spiel. And I said the same thing then. Like, I'm sorry, but she sounds sometimes when she's talking like a child. What do you think, Brie?
Yeah, I agree. I think we've said this before too, but she like didn't get to finish high school because she started being super famous when she was like 15, I think. And I think that stunts your emotional growth a little
Yeah.
bit. She didn't get to be around people who were like her when she was younger, and I really do think that's why she's kind of immature.
Yeah.
So, but I will say another aspect of this that I think
Yeah.
is important is the reason, or one of the reasons I think she posted this is because of the fan backlash on X. And a lot of the accounts that have little watermelons in their names and bios,
What
which
does that
means
mean?
the Palestinian flag, but they think they're not
I
allowed to
have
put
always
that.
seen the
So
watermelon next to the Palestinian flag. Why is it a watermelon?
I think the reason is they're like, we're going to get like in trouble if they see that we support Palestine. So we're going to code it. I think it's like a code. And they're all supposed to
cracked
know. We cracked it. So yeah, when you see a little watermelon, that means they're Palestine supporters. And usually you're about to read something really dumb.
Yeah.
When you see that.
Yeah.
But it's all those people and their commentary about how, yeah, like we said, you can't be friends with anyone who doesn't agree with you on things. And I think that the fact that those people are like 13, 14-year-olds who don't understand how the world works, and Taylor Swift is 34 years old, she I think was bullied by a bunch of preteens into making a post like this, and that's just really sad. That's like very sad.
It's really sad, but there's got to be some people in her life too that are like, hey, you really need to do this.
Oh, I'm sure.
This
Yeah.
is about my rights. What do you think about,
Yeah.
I mean, she only listed like a few specific issues that she really cares about. One of them was IVF, which
Yeah.
I just think is odd. Like, Tim Walz hasn't fought for that He said he went through IVF, or his family did, and they didn't. They went through IUI, which doesn't carry the same ethical concerns for a lot of people. So that was weird. So much research she did. But she also said a woman's right to her own body. Were you surprised at all that that was one of the 3 issues that she says she cares about?
No. Because I think she has done that before. I think when she endorsed Biden, she said something similar about that was one of the issues that she cared about, women's reproductive freedom. I don't even know if she said reproductive freedom, but a right to someone's body.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
no, that doesn't surprise me. And that's a talking point. You've talked before about how that's where Kamala shines. And I think that's just kind of where like female celebrities are landing their talking points right now.
Yeah. It's just so, I mean, it's really sad that that is, you're right. In 2020, like she said the same thing about Biden. Like, women have a right to choose what happens to their bodies. You do have a right to choose what happens to your body. And if you engage in the act of sex, which is biologically meant to create a child, then you are taking responsibility not only for what happens to your body, but then what happens in your body. You have now potentially, I mean, obviously during pregnancy, if that results from your act of your sex act, then you have a distinct human being inside of you with its own distinct DNA from the moment of conception. And from that point on, you have another human being who has rights, and that child's right to life, the most fundamental right, without which we would have no other rights. That child's right to life supersedes your right to comfort. It supersedes your right to convenience. It supersedes your desires and your wants. It supersedes any feeling or want that you may have. It supersedes your career goals because that child is a human being, and Taylor Swift stands unapologetically for the slaughter of babies. Like, that is one of the only topics specifically that she will bring up for why she votes Democrat. It's really, really disturbing. Okay, we'll talk more about this in a second. Let me pause and tell you about our next sponsor, and that is America's Christian Credit Union. So, unfortunately, there's a lot of conversations happening right now among Christian business owners about who to bank with because of the fear of being debanked. Their bank, their financial institution, no longer working with them because of what they do, what they stand for. That is not something that you want to have to worry about. So you need to switch to a bank that aligns with your values. That's America's Christian Credit Union. They have been serving God-fearing Americans with integrity and faith for more than 65 years. They were founded by pastors for the benefit of its members, and now they have grown incredibly with over 30,000 ATMs nationwide, 5,000 shared branches. For a limited time, you can earn $400 when you open a new checking account with qualifying activities. Plus, my listeners get an additional $100 bonus with promo code Allie. Go to americaschristianceu.com/Allie. America's Christian Credit Union is federally insured by the NCUA. Okay, a little bit more about Brittany Mahomes. So Brittany Mahomes showed support for former President Trump by liking one of his recent Instagram posts. And then TMZ reported on it, and I guess Trump Vance talked about it, and she got a lot of hate for that. And then when she posted about it in response on Instagram, she didn't say, "Oh, sorry, no, I didn't really do that. That's not true." She said, "I mean, honestly, to be a hater as an adult, you have to have some deep-rooted issues you refuse to heal from childhood. There's no reason your brain is fully developed and you hate to see others doing well." Trump said, "I want to thank beautiful Brittany Mahomes for so strongly defending me." I don't know if she would necessarily, if she would agree with that language that he used, but she didn't back down. She didn't apologize. And then we've got this picture of Taylor Swift and Brittany Mahomes hugging together with their significant others. So sweet. And then an op-ed from Variety says if Taylor Swift doesn't endorse Kamala Harris, she'd be entering a new era. And then the watermelon freakazoids that that Brie was talking about, saying, "Oh my goodness, she absolutely has to say something about this. The Swiftie fandom has to unite. This is against human rights and all of this stuff." Brie, I don't know if you agree with this. I know that she didn't directly throw Brittany under the bus in her post, but I think in light of the context and the and just the backlash that she received, that this is obviously a response, I do think it's an underhanded way to throw your friend under the bus.
Yeah, I guess for people who know the context, I think you're right. Yeah, I had originally said that I appreciate that she didn't say anything explicit about it, because I think they are friends, genuine friends. But I think that's a fair point. Yeah, even calling it out at all, making a statement at all, probably is because people know.
Yeah.
It's in reaction to this.
To me, it's affirming the criticisms that, oh, yeah, she's problematic. Your friendship is problematic. And that you being friends with someone at least gives some kind of message that you support everything that they support. I think like if you really wanted to be a girl's girl, which she says that I think she says that she is. I think that she would pretend to be anyway. Then it would have been awesome for her to actually explicitly say, like, or if she responded, I think it would have been better, like you said, not to respond at all. But to say, yeah, like Brittany is my friend. No, we don't agree on everything. We don't talk about politics, but Brittany is really kind and we share a lot of the same values, even if we're not voting for the same person. That would have been an implicit endorsement of Kamala Harris, but I would have thought, you know what? Like, that is a good way to model how we can disagree and still love each other. But to me, this was backhanded. If I were Brittany, I would be like, oh, really? You care a bunch about what a bunch of like 13-year-olds say on X that you had to make a whole statement about it?
Yeah, no, I think that's a fair point. And also, Taylor Swift gave herself an out, actually, to not talk about these kinds of things, because when the terrorist threat happened in Austria and she had to cancel her concerts, she made a post after the leg of her tour ended and said, essentially, she was arguing, I deliberately didn't make a statement about that because I didn't want to incite people to do something at my shows after that. And she explained that a lot of people weren't happy with that. They thought that wasn't sufficient. She needed to speak about everything. But she gave a reasoning
why.
Like
what kind of statement? Because it was Islamic terrorism, right?
Yeah. And they wanted her to make a statement condemning that, of course. And her reasoning was, well, I'm about to have shows in London.
No, her reasoning was, I don't want to make the Muslims mad.
Well, yes, that's the real reasoning. But what she's explaining in the post is, I didn't want to incite anything to happen at my London concerts.
Once again, she's scared of the watermelon freakazoids.
Yes, totally. But she's giving herself an out that she didn't even use this time that she could have. So I just find it all so silly. Yeah. You're right. Obviously, that was like the heart behind it. But
yeah, I mean, I of course and I want her to be safe. That's a horrible, horrible thing that happened.
Yeah.
But and maybe part of it was for safety and security reasons, and I can respect that and understand that. But yeah, she wasn't going to say anything because then you would have to talk about the fact that it was Islamic terrorism and that's the thing. She says that she cares about women's rights. She cares about LGBTQ rights. She cares about all of this stuff. Well, you were literally just victimized by a global regime that oppresses women like as a part of its innate function.
Yeah.
Millions and millions of women are literally tangibly, not just like fictionally, like in The Handmaid's Tale here in the United States, like actually oppressed, sold as child brides, raped, unable to show any part of their body, can't get education in places run by the very kinds of groups that attacked you. And you, champion of human rights, you can't even say a thing about that?
Yeah.
Come on.
I know.
But here's the thing, is that when it comes to celebrities on the left, they're completely unabashed about, like what they stand for, and they're going to endorse. But when it's celebrities on the right, the most we might get is like a roguelike on an Instagram post.
Yeah.
But when they're asked about it, they're neutral. But neutrality is conservative coded.
Mm-hmm.
It just is. Like,
For
there
sure.
are just very few celebrities, athletes that if they are liberal, that they're going to just be like, no, I'm neutral. Like Steph Curry, he was on, I think, NBC the other day.
Yeah.
I don't think we have that clip because I didn't know I was going to talk about it. But he was asked, like, oh, well, who do you support? The correct answer is, I don't really know anything of what I'm talking about, so I'm not going to say that. He said that he's voting for Kamala Harris. This is a guy who is a professing Christian, literally for abortion. What? What? Like, it's so crazy how killing babies is the thing that professing Christians like Taylor Swift and Steph Curry, that is their justification for voting for a communist candidate. Like the open borders, the price caps, the taxes on unrealized gains. Of course, those things don't affect them. And the lawlessness, like all of that is worth it just if women have more access to killing babies through 9 months.
Yeah.
How depraved and demonic is that? So I actually do commend athletes who are like, yeah, I'm just not going to talk about that. And that is Patrick Mahomes, of course, the husband of Brittany Mahomes, who we've just been talking about. He was asked, who do you support in this election? Here's thought two.
I've always said I don't want my place and my platform to be used to endorse a candidate or do whatever. Either way, I think my place is to inform people to get registered to vote, is to inform people to do their own research and then make their best decision for them and their family. And so I think that's every time I'm on this stage and I get asked these questions, I'm going to refer back to that because I think that's what makes America so great.
Now I do wonder if like that last line there was a little bit of a like make America
A little
great.
wink.
What did you say? I doubt it. I don't think that he meant to. But to me, when someone says that they don't want to talk politics, that typically means they're voting for Trump. Now, maybe that's the problem, is that when you're conservative, you're neutral. And when you're liberal, you're not. And so I think if more people could be unapologetic. Now, I know there's risk to this. There's cost to this. That's the problem. But if more people who didn't have a lot to lose would stand up and be like, yeah, I'm voting for Trump. So what? I would never vote for Kamala Harris. And here's why. Like, I'm not saying that all athletes should do that or that they have to do that or that they're bad people if they don't. I'm not saying that. But I do wonder if more people with power, with prominence, were just like, I don't freaking care what you call me. Yeah, this is who I'm voting for. This is who I'm friends with. Then it would help the underlings, like the rest of us, be able to stand up and say, oh, okay. Like it gives people cover. Like Harrison Butker, for example.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, he got in a lot of trouble or he caught a lot of heat for giving the speech at graduation a few months ago saying, it's awesome to be a stay-at-home mom. And people were like, oh my gosh, Harrison Butker is going to come to my cubicle and drag me home into the kitchen and make me make pies for him. Like people thought that he was like forcing them. It was so crazy. And he just signed like a $25 million contract with Kansas City Chiefs. Like he's fine. He's fine. I know for a lot of other people, like there's risk, but that's what I'm saying is like for Patrick Mahomes, if he wanted to, he could say, yeah, like I'm voting for Trump. And I don't think he would lose anything.
Yeah. Well, and also the other is kind of in the vein of what you were saying, but someone like Taylor Swift who makes a statement like this, I don't think this is going to affect anyone. The people who are already voting for Kamala are already going to vote for her. She's not changing minds by endorsing someone. But on the other side, if someone like Patrick Mahomes or some, singer or something like that endorsed Trump, I think like a mainstream celebrity, I think that would change people's minds because that would force people to be like, oh, okay, someone I really like and respect is, and not someone I think is crazy already, supports him. Maybe it would have, people would look into him more.
Yeah.
Maybe people would actually do their research. And so I think it would change things, actually.
Yeah, it would at least change the conversation. I mean, I do think after the assassination attempt, a lot of people felt like that gave them, I don't know, like almost protection or enthusiasm to be like, yeah, you know what? wow, if this many people are out to get him, then like maybe he's doing something right. Unfortunately, I think a lot of that has kind of shifted a little bit, and Democrats have been very strategic and like sucking the air out of that moment. Um, but if someone is not going to say, "Hey, I'm conservative and here's why," like I understand the neutral approach, and I actually wish every athlete would do something like that. When it came to specific candidates, I don't fault someone for standing up for their values like Harrison Butker did. But when it comes to specific candidates, like, yeah, maybe just don't say anything. And Clay Travis pointed out this is like in Michael Jordan when he was asked to comment on politics. He said Republicans buy sneakers too. Honestly, that should be like the extent of your public commentary. Caitlin Clark did the same thing, but there's a little bit of there are some layers to Caitlin Clark politically that we'll get into in just a second. Let me pause and tell you about my third sponsor for the day, and that is Patriot Mobile. Patriot Mobile is amazing. They're the only Christian conservative wireless provider. They are fighting for the First and Second Amendments, sanctity of life, our military and first responder heroes. Unfortunately, when you use some of these major carriers, you are giving money to people that hate us. And when you partner with Patriot Mobile, you can rest assured that they align with your values 100%. They have a completely US-based customer service team that makes switching really easy. They'll find the best plan for you. Keep your number, keep your phone, or you can upgrade. Go to patriotmobile.com. You'll get a free month when you use my code Allie. patriotmobile.com/Allie, code Allie. Okay, so Caitlin Clark also gave a neutral response. You all know Caitlin Clark. She has been in the center of a lot of controversy. It's really weird. She's in the WNBA, but she was a controversial figure. It really was like this odd, like racial battle that was going on for no fault of hers. She's just a really good player. And people said, oh, people are only paying attention to her because she's white. And she's seems to be like the victim of some bullying on the court because of the media attention that has been paid to her. But of course, it's not because she's white. It's because she's a great basketball player. And she also, I would say, is like conservative coded. Like some of the things that she said, there was a sweet video of her interacting with a fan. And she was talking about it like a baby inside the womb. And of course, she referred to it as a baby and how much she loves babies. So she does just seem like a sweet person. And she was asked about her endorsement or who she would endorse in the presidential race. And here's what she says. SOT 3.
I think for myself is, I have this amazing platform, so I think the biggest thing would be just to encourage people to register to vote. I think for myself, this is the second time I can vote in an election. At age 22, I could vote when I was 18, so I think do that. That's the biggest thing I can do with the platform that I have, and that's the same thing Taylor did. And I think continue to educate yourself with the candidates that we have, the policies that they're supporting. I think that's the biggest thing you can do, and that's what I would recommend to every single person that has that opportunity in our country.
Now, Caitlin Clark liked Taylor Swift's post. And it's not like I am the biggest Caitlin Clark stan just because I don't really follow basketball, but Brie, like, this is actually really disappointing to me. This is really disappointing because to me, this means that she is voting for Kamala Harris. Like, you wouldn't like a post like that if you weren't.
Yeah, yes, I agree. I think if she were like a Trump supporter, she would never like that post. So probably she is voting for Kamala, yeah. But I do know a lot of people, even personally, who will like anything that calls people just to like register to vote for anyone, which I think is silly personally. But that could be the case. But yeah, pretty sure she's voting blue.
Caitlin, I think that you have people around you who will tell you the truth. You're telling me that your dad is voting for Kamala Harris. I don't believe that. And I think that she's Catholic. You can't vote for a pro-abortion candidate. Come on, girl. Come on. You don't want that. So I would say take your own advice, educate yourself on the policies that each represent, and ask yourself, is this going to create more order or less order? More peace or less peace? Is this going to create a better, safer, more prosperous future for my kids and grandkids, or a less safe, more dangerous, less prosperous future? All of that really matters. All of the noise about so-called LGBTQ rights and things like that, that's really just a euphemism for taxpayer-funded sex change surgeries for kids. I wish I were exaggerating. Remember, Kamala Harris in 2019 told the ACLU, as reported by CNN, that she believes in taxpayer-funded, quote-unquote, gender reassignment surgery for detained illegal immigrants. I wish I were joking about that. That is literally who is running for president. She is a radical in every sense of the word. I understand if you consider yourself center left. Kamala Harris is far left. Don't do that to your kids and grandkids, your future kids and grandkids. Don't do that to yourself. You don't want to vote for the right to slaughter an unborn child through 9 months. I don't think that's what you stand for. All right, we're going to close out by talking about, we talked about this a little bit yesterday, but we are going to, we're going to fact check this a little bit more. The Springfield, Ohio story that you've probably seen circulating on social media now. Maybe you hadn't heard about it because it was almost exclusively siloed on X and it became kind of like a meme. But now it is an actual story because Donald Trump talked about it at the debate and ABC tried to fact check him on that and said, oh, no, none of that stuff is true. And that's a conspiracy theory. And as I said, I don't think Trump should have brought it up because he wasn't exact in his language and it was fantastical sounding. So it really didn't matter if there was any truth to it. What mattered was how did it sound to the American people who don't have the time or the energy or the desire to go fact check him and to see if it's actually true. And most of them aren't even on X. So he should have stuck with Laken Riley. He should have stuck with Kate Steinle. He should have stuck with those names that people know to show the consequences of illegal immigration. But instead, he talked about like the ducks and the cats that are apparently being eaten by these Haitian migrants, immigrants in the small town of Springfield, Ohio. And multiple media outlets now have said this is a white supremacist, far-right conspiracy theory. This absolutely isn't happening, but it is happening. And it's actually much worse than that. Like there are some memes about the cats and the ducks and the geese that are allegedly, according to the citizens in this town, being taken by these Haitian immigrants, chopped up in their yards, sacrificed, eaten. It's really bigger than that and deeper than that. So let's take a look at what is really going on here. And you can respond with all of this to your friends who say, oh no, that's a conspiracy theory. That's not really happening. So here's a summary. Residents of Springfield, Ohio are voicing their outrage after the sudden influx of Haitian immigrants has sparked numerous social issues, overwhelmed services, worsened the housing crisis, has also caused a number of fatal traffic accidents, and oddly enough, has led to the death of pets and animals on public land. The media is ignoring the interviews and the public testimonies and the concerns of Ohio citizens. Governor Mike DeWine announced he is sending additional law enforcement and millions of dollars to the overwhelmed city, as he should, but he also supported the program that imported these Haitian immigrants. So up to 20,000 Haitian immigrants have moved to Springfield, Ohio in the last few years. According to the city's mayor, the last available census shows us that the population had just 58,000 people. And so the influx was about a third of the town's population. Like, I don't care what kind of people are moving into a town. When you take a town that small and you bring that many people into the town, that's going to change the town. Now, you could argue that a town could be changed for the better, but it's going to be changed. It's going to be changed for better or for worse. And I simply believe in the radical democratic idea, truly democratic idea, that the citizens of a country and the people in a community should have a say in how their community fundamentally changes. The Biden-Harris administration this past June gave 300,000 Haitians temporary legal status. Hint, it's not going to be temporary, which lasts until at least February 2026 because there's turmoil in Haiti. Now, why is there turmoil in Haiti? Because of government corruption, because of gang violence, and really it goes back to voodoo. Like 100%, even I shouldn't say 100%, but it's close. It's somewhere like 98%. We've talked about this on an episode before of Haiti. Even those who identify as Catholic or Protestant practice some form of voodoo, of child sacrifice. I have a lot of people in my life who have been to Haiti as missionaries. That's like really the only support that Haitians get is through Christian mission organizations, Christian nonprofits, Christian missionaries that go there and try to bring some kind of order and some kind of help to this very lost, for the most part, people. I mean, there are fundamental things, fundamental civilizational things that Haiti just does not have. There was a story of a doctor who went over there to help Haitians who were suffering from blindness. And one of the things that he noted was that when he was trying to go through the medical files of the hospitals there run by Haitians, they didn't even know about alphabetical order. Like there was no organization system whatsoever. And that is just one picture of how the entire country is run and who suffers from that most. It's children. Women and children pay the price for all of that disorder and corruption and violence and chaos, but especially children. So, of course, when you import, when you bring in hundreds of thousands of those people who have no sense of what the first world is like, who have no sense of the kind of laws and rules and regulations and decorum and social norms and social contracts that we have here in the United States and in the West, that's going to be really hard. Now, that's not a case against barring all refugees and all asylum seekers. That's just a reality that we have to reckon with. And when you bring military-aged men into the United States who have only ever known violence and a level of barbarism, that is going to endanger your own citizens. And that is exactly what is happening. So let's listen to some of the testimonies of the people who live in Springfield. Here's SOT 6.
Nothing but immigrants over there. And I don't even want to seem like I'm coming down on the immigrants because it's the people that's bringing them down here. Because wherever they're at, that's what they're used to, bro. They're in the park grabbing up ducks by their neck and cutting their head off and walking off with them and eating them
So, I mean, obviously that man, he's not being racist, is he, towards the Haitian migrants, Haitian immigrants, I should say. I mean, that was a Black man. This is just apparently a concerned citizen. And here is SOT 7.
These are not civilized people. Opening containers in our grocery stores, helping themselves to what's inside and throwing the rest onto the shelves and floors. Pulling off of the highway to publicly clean and gut the roadkill lying there in front of anyone that passes by. Stealing animals from farmers and leaving their severed heads at the side of an old school where children play. Relieving themselves in public. Making some barbaric stew out of the birds that live in our park. This is insanity, and it has to stop.
Look, I know that might sound harsh, but look, most of these are poor people living in town just trying to get by and raise their families. And I think that we even balk at this word uncivilized, but civilization is based on rules and regulations and basic understandings. And all of these wonderful services that we have is built on trust. It's built on a social contract. It's built on a high trust society. If you cannot live in a high trust society, then you live in a fascist police state. And so the concerns of these people, the safety concerns that they have, the civilizational concerns that they have, the cultural concerns that they have are completely justified. And here is an elderly woman giving her testimony at SOT 8.
But it is so unsafe. I have men that cannot speak English in my front yard screaming at me, throwing mattresses in my front yard, throwing trash in my front yard. And I can't. Look at me, I weigh 95 pounds. I couldn't defend myself if I had to. My husband is elderly, and last night, after living in this home for 45 years, he said, Noelle, guess what? It's time to pack up and move. Who's protecting us? If we're protecting them, who's protecting me? I want out of this town. I am sorry. Please give me a reason to stay.
I mean, that just breaks your heart. Like, does she not matter? Do her concerns not matter? But these people who come in, they don't even pay taxes. Like, they're not even citizens of this country. They have no stake in this country. I mean, this is what Kamala Harris has done. I mean, this is her policy. This is what she stands for. This is what she's fought for her entire political career, selling out the safety and the well-being of Americans for the sake of strangers who, many of them, care nothing about our country. And that's okay to say. I'm tired of believing that loving the foreigner and loving your neighbor means that we have to sell out our fellow citizens on behalf of people who do not care if we live or die. Like, I just don't believe that. In fact, I'll go so far as to say you can either love your neighbor or support the unmitigated importation of unvetted immigrants, but you cannot do both. We have been purposely placed where we are on this speck of eternity, on this piece of land, purposely and providentially by a God who does nothing by accident. And we are exiles in this world as Christians. And God told his exiles, his Israelite exiles in Babylon in Jeremiah 29, to seek the welfare of the city that they are exiled in, for in its welfare you will find your welfare. I want to seek the welfare of the city that I have been placed in. I cannot seek the welfare of my neighbors, of my community, of the children who live around me, and also support the unmitigated importation of unvetted immigrants. I just can't. I can do one or the other, and I choose to love and care for the people around me. Countries are good. Borders are good. Languages are good. Cultures are good. These are earthly mechanisms that God has given us for our good, for our benefit, for order. Got a couple more things to say on this, but I've got one more sponsor, and that is my Patriot Supply. We don't know what's going to happen, y'all. We don't know what's going to happen with this election. We don't know what the future holds. I don't want to think about the worst, so I'm not paranoid, but I do want to be prepared. I want an emergency food supply for my family. I want you to have it for your family too. Get it from my Patriot Supply. You'll get 2,000 calorie a day meals, and get one for every member of your family. You can get a 4-week emergency food kit right now for $50 off with my link, preparewithallie.com. That's preparewithallie.com. So a couple more examples of what's happening before we close out for the week. I want to play at least part of this testimony from this woman who talks about what happened with her mother-in-law, who was killed by one of these immigrants who, like many of these immigrants in this area, just have no regard for the traffic laws.
Everyone is talking about the death of ducks and cats in this town, but I'd like to talk about the death of one very special person, my mother-in-law, Kathy Heaton. On December 1st, I received a phone call that changed my life forever. She was collecting her trash can from her driveway when a car struck and killed her instantly. A task she had done over 2,000 times, spanning 4 decades in Springfield. That morning, though, a Haitian immigrant was allegedly driving recklessly when he struck and killed her. I say allegedly because to this day, there's been no punishment, not even for the expired tags on the vehicle he was driving.
And she is not the only one that has lost her life because of this. You might remember that a few months ago, I think it was last year, there was an 11-year-old boy, Aiden Clark. He was killed, and more than 20 children were taken to the hospital. They were riding in a school bus that day, and a Haitian immigrant, as he was driving, crossed over the center dividing line, crashed into the school bus. This 11-year-old lost his life because of open border policies, because of a policy that Kamala Harris implemented. I mean, how many people have to die because of the policies that Kamala Harris has championed while she has been in charge? Kate Steinle in California, that was under Kamala Harris's watch. Laken Riley under Kamala Harris's watch as border czar. Aiden Clark under Kamala Harris's watch, not just as border czar, but signing off on the policy that imported 300 unvetted Haitian migrants into the United States, into Springfield, Ohio. On September 10th, Springfield City Commission met. The father of Aiden Clark said this, and I'll tell you exactly what is going on here. It's really sad. SOT 9.
I wish that my son, Aiden Clark, was killed by a 60-year-old white man. And I bet you never thought anyone would ever say something so blunt. But if that guy killed my 11-year-old son, the incessant group of hate-spewing people would leave us alone. The last thing that we need is to have the worst day of our lives violently and constantly shoved in our faces.
Look, I understand that he just doesn't want his son's son's death to be politicized, and I feel for him. And of course, I feel for this entire situation and what they have to go through. But the fact of the matter is that his son's death was a result of a deliberate policy decision by people in charge. And if we want fewer people to die, like if we want that to not happen again, if we want to protect our citizens, then we have to care not just about the fact that he died, but how he died and who is actually responsible for his death. Yes, citizens commit crimes too, but every crime that is committed by an illegal alien is preventable. That is the difference. We don't need to add to the crimes already being committed by our citizens. Loving your country is good. Every country has the right and the responsibility to do that, to put the well-being of its people first. And you know what it is, and I've got to close out here soon, but all of this, from Taylor Swift to people's just denial of the immorality of this kind of importation of people and illegal immigration. It's toxic empathy. Toxic empathy has so deluded us into believing that the loving and righteous position is the progressive one. That in order to be loving and righteous and compassionate, we have to affirm a woman's so-called right to murder her child, that we have to call a man she, that we have to sign off on the redefinition of marriage, and that we have to open our borders to quote unquote love the foreigner, and that we have to promote lawlessness in the name of equity, social justice, and racial justice. It's toxic empathy that has lied to us and has told us that feeling someone's pain and affirming what they want is love, but it's not love. Because love, as 1 Corinthians 13:6 tells us, rejoices with the truth. It never rejoices in wrongdoing. That is the distinction for the Christian. And that is why I wrote the book Toxic Empathy. We have a whole chapter dedicated to immigration, then abortion, then gender, then sexuality, then social justice. And I just desperately wanted to give you all of the tools, all of the information, all of the arguments, biblical, logical, historical, scientific, for you to make the case for what I believe to be the Christian perspective on all of these, without the delusion and the deception and the distortions of the media's emotional manipulation getting in the way. You can get that book, toxicempathy.com. You can pre-order it. It's out on October 15th. This is one that you want to buy for yourself. It's short. You'll be able to read it really quickly, but you also want to give it to your friends, and you'll want to use it in your conversations with your friends, especially leading up to the election. Politics matter because policy matters because people matter. Politics affects policy. Policy affects people. People matter. The people in your neighborhood, the citizens in this country that God has placed you in, their rights, their protection, their safety matter. Yes, everyone is made in the image of God. Everyone needs the gospel, absolutely. But we have these boundaries, these parameters, these borders, these citizenships here on earth for a reason. They help promote order. Order is good, especially for the most vulnerable. Love your neighbor. Support God's order. All right, that's all we've got time for today. We'll be back here on Monday.